are back. You're listening to You Would Think, the Philadelphia Flyers podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Collington, and it's been a tough week in Flyer land. But if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you see that my co-host today is, as usual, the one and only Mr. Kevin Durso. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I figured I'd mix up the intro a little bit. I got to keep you on your toes, right? It can't be the same every week. Speaking of weeks, not the best one.
No.
We're going to talk about the Flyers here as we get into it. But before we start the show, the plugs are along the bottom here. Make sure to find us on Twitter at YWT Podcast. I'm gonna take a second. Go follow our YouTube channel. If you're watching here, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening, do me a favor. Jump onto YouTube and give us a subscribe. It really helps us out. We're really trying to grow over there. Kevin's doing pregame content. I'm doing postgame content. We're really pumping a lot out on the YouTube channel. It'd be great if you guys could check it out. The show is also on sportstalkphilly.com. We're everywhere. Podcast, you know the drill by now. Bad week, Kevin. I called on last week's show that the Flyers should go 2-1-1 or better this week, and that was not the case.
I didn't think you called it. I thought that you said like
I was hoping.
No, I thought you said 2-1-1 would be a good week. That's the way I thought. Like I think that you referred to it, which.
Well, I was hoping that this Flyers team is a good team and could put together a 2-1-1 week. Turns out that's not really what we got.
Well, all right. There's a lot of ways we can approach this. I mean, yeah. Okay. So yes, the week did not start out well at all, obviously, but then, good win on Tuesday. Can't take away as much as it wasn't perfect.
All right, and you're talking about the 2-0 shutout victory over the
3-0, yeah.
Oh, sorry, 3-0 shutout victory over the Buffalo Sabres on Tuesday.
Yeah,
night.
it's okay
with a massive shutout.
It's okay if you forgot the Kevin Hayes bouncer that happened to roll into the net.
I did.
At the end of the game, like
Brian Elliott played really, really well on Tuesday. I will give Moose a little credit. The Moose was loose, man. It was a good one. What, 40 saves?
That game, yeah, 40 saves, and that game is why they're talking about him for next week. Okay. That's why he's being talked about. Like he needs to get another start next week at some point. Which is obvious anyway. I think it's obvious because you gotta keep him in the rotation somewhere.
And we'll talk about Carter Hart in a little bit.
Yeah, we will, because I feel like there's a lot of things being said that don't need to be said, but we'll get into that.
But either way, that doesn't take away from Brian Elliott. He played a great game on Tuesday. That was your only win of the week.
Yeah, I think
not acceptable.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that, in hindsight, Thursday's game didn't have to appear as bad as it turned out to be. There's a lot of things that are unacceptable about that game. I get it.
Thursday's game is the unacceptable one in my head. Yeah.
But see, here's the thing. You still had that chance to finish off the week strong. And if you finish off the week strong, it kind of becomes a good point when you bounce back.
I agree with you. So how did the Flyers respond on Saturday night? Did they come out?
Let's put the graphic on the screen. There you go.
Right. Did they come out and prove that they deserved, 2 points against the Boston team? No. Did the Flyers play 5 good minutes last night? And I'm not talking about in a row. I'm talking about combined. I don't think the answer is yes.
Well, let's just wait. Burn the third period tape, because by that point the game didn't matter.
Yeah.
Just burn the third period tape. Game didn't matter. That game was over, and you got this sense a little bit. That game was over the second that Charlie Coyle scored that goal with 2 minutes left in the second period. That's when the game's over. Right there.
Yeah. That was kind of the end of it, and that's when I knew it was over.
Because the realistic thing to say about this game is, for everything that you could pinpoint about it, it's a 2-1 game with 3 minutes left in the second period. That's a game. It's still competitive. You're one bounce away.
It shouldn't have been, for the record. The Flyers were not playing 2-1 hockey at that point in the game.
Well, you said something on your postgame video last night that I thought was reflective of Thursday anyway.
My postgame video that can be found on our YouTube channel at YWT Podcast on YouTube.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Where you said a 10-1 score would be more reflective of what happened than the final score was, right? So the Flyers lose on Thursday 5-4 in a shootout. They gave, it was 4-4 after 60 minutes. There's no reason it couldn't have been 8-4 or 8-2 or something like that, because and that's why I feel like the Carter Hart subject is a touchy subject for me right now, because I am not going to deny the numbers don't look good. I can't deny that. The numbers are bad. But the performance is so based on everything else happening around him. It's very, it feels very Steve Mason-esque. And I say that like you're playing with a team that should be better, but it's like playing with a team in front of you that doesn't have any chemistry, that doesn't seem to know what they're supposed to do. And you're left to try to be the one solution to the problem. And you can have your best game in the world and still allow 3 goals.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a prayer on the 3.
Right.
And
there were a couple, and so
it makes Brian Elliott's game more impressive, doesn't it?
Right. Well, that's definitely the case. Brian Elliott played a great week, but I did want to mention that I agree. I think some of the pursuit of Carter Hart has been a little vehement. That being said, he didn't play good hockey this week. He let a couple of goals up that were not medium, not questionable. They were soft. And it's one of those things when the team's not playing well in front of you. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, if I go to, if you're talking about the week collectively, he probably allowed 2 or 3 that I can think of right off the top of my head without having to look at them again that I know were soft. Coyle's turnaround shot in the third period on Thursday is one he's got to stop. I would say there was he needs a save on the goal by Sam Reinhart on Monday. Not the first one, by the way. The first one that goes off of his arm while he's sprawling across is not one he's
nothing you can do there.
I'm talking about the one from the slot where it looked like Reinhardt had all the time in the world, still took a shot, and I think it beat him under the arm or something like that, which he should have had it. There are people who I think are thinking he should have had the one from Carlo in Thursday's game. Those are always touchy to me because it's a point shot that's rising. It's got some heat to it. It goes into a perfect spot.
When it's not screened.
But it's not screened. I get it. So that's why if that's what you're looking at.
And it's coming from a defenseman.
Right.
If it's Alex Ovechkin, you give him if it's Alex Ovechkin, you give him the spot. If it's Evgeny or Andrei Svechnikov, you give him the spot. It's Brandon Carlo, man. You just got to stop that. You just got to get in front of it. And one of the things about Carter Hart is he's been so good about getting in front of shots and center. Like that's his thing. Positioning is Carter Hart's thing. And he just looked out of position. Didn't look like he didn't make the save. It looked like he was not in a good spot to make the save.
I don't know that I don't even know if he's out of position, to be honest. I don't know that it's completely positioning. I just think it's confidence. I think it's the results are not good. And when the results are not good, it's in your head. And let's put it this way. Do we need to say any more than the reaction? And I don't think there was a goal. I mean, it's hard to it's like I said, I wasn't paying super close attention in the third period to care whether or not it mattered. But the first goal of the game to Bergeron, he's actually reading the play the right way because he's thinking it's going high, and he whiffed on it. Yep. And it rolls under the pad because he didn't get all of it, and that it just worked out that way. It was a power play.
That's a power
what are you gonna do? The Coyle tip is a perfect play. He's going to try to play the puck away because it's going to be right in front of him, and Coyle got it first, and it went straight up and over him. It's a good play. What can you say? He's not out of position for it.
Right.
And same thing with the Craig Smith goal. He's not out of position. It bounces the right way, goes to a guy who's staring at an open net. So those are not his fault.
No,
but your confidence is shattered after a game like this, especially when you were already on the hook for a loss like it earlier in the week. So when he turns around and is smashing his stick on the net at the end of that game, and
which you don't see out of Carter Hart.
No, you don't see it. And I'm here's the thing. He apologized after the game. He didn't have to.
He shouldn't have.
You don't have to apologize for thinking you showed up your teammates, for thinking that you were being unprofessional about that or having a fit about it when they didn't show up for the game.
I was going to say,
you don't have to apologize for that.
If Carter Hart apologized to us, I certainly hope his defenseman apologized to him because it was a poor effort all around. Carter Hart got pulled on Monday. And then Brian Elliott came out and had a 40-save shutout on Tuesday. And I know Carter Hart is one of the mentally strongest goalies in the league. He's been very open about working with a sports psychologist, and he's been really, really open about kind of the mental issues of playing goalie.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little shaken after that. Like, it's tough to get dummied like that on Monday, get yanked. The guy comes in and plays pretty well. Brian Elliott played really pretty well in relief on Monday night. And then he comes out and rips a 40-game shutout the next night. You come out and blow a 2-goal lead in Thursday's game, and then on Saturday you get dumped. Like, how's Carter Hart feeling this morning? Carter Hart did not have a good week.
No, he didn't. And it's reflective of the whole team. It's reflective of a lot of things at this point in time. That this is a flawed team. This is a terribly, terribly flawed team.
Flawed team. We were talking about this team over the summer as being one piece away. Maybe a guy like, maybe they can go after a guy like Patrick Laine. We'll talk about that later. Maybe that's all they need. Maybe they can afford. And it turns out that when Matt Niskanen retires and Phil Myers gets hurt, your defensive core takes a hit. Because if you look at November, you're looking at this upcoming season, and that's your top four. That's half your top four right there. And obviously Niskanen left before the season. They had a little time to adjust. They signed Eric Gustafsson, et cetera, et cetera. But the Flyers defensive core took a pretty big hit when Phil Myers left the lineup. And I think they're really saying that.
Yes and no, because I think even then there was still more to be desired out of Phil Myers too. Sure. You see how the structure, I had said pre-season, so to speak, before the season started, doing a state of the Flyers at the end of the calendar year 2020, knowing camp was starting, knowing that the season was 2 weeks away roughly, or whatever it was going to be at the time. And I said, you can't afford to lose 3 players for long term: Sean Couturier, Ivan Provorov, and Carter Hart. And you've lost one.
And you've lost Sean Couturier. Yeah.
And this is exactly the reason why I said it. And I don't know that Sean Couturier is fixing this team right now anyway, because
I don't think the team loses Thursday if Sean Couturier is in the lineup.
Possibly. I could see that.
I'm willing to say that the team was poor enough that you're going to lose Monday night to Buffalo. You're going to lose Saturday night to Boston. You don't blow a 3-1 lead in the third period with Sean Couturier on the ice. Very unlikely.
Yeah,
and
I don't know.
So, and out of the 5 points you gave up this week, that's only one of them, but you gave up that point by letting Boston come back. Thank God you got it into overtime, because it looked like Boston was going to win it in regulation for a minute. And I'm not saying that, Sean Couturier comes back and everything is fixed, but this team misses Sean Couturier.
They absolutely do. Like a comment I got yesterday was something about Chuck Fletcher had a horrible offseason because he let too many, he let too many vets go, and he didn't address the defenseman position. I'll give you the defenseman thing, but sure, it's hard to address a situation when A, it is thrown upon you like that, and B, when you don't know how, negotiations are negotiations. You cannot it's two-sided. Everything is two-sided. You can't just say, I want, and it just shows up.
Right.
You might have to ask internally, it's time for everybody to step up and show what they're capable of, and that's just the way it has to go. Look, I even responded to the comment because going, he let too many vets go. Matt Niskanen made a choice. That's not letting a guy go. That's not saying we don't need you anymore. That's a guy who said, I don't want to do this anymore.
So you wanted him to re-sign Nate Thompson? Is that what you wanted by him?
And I even said Nate Thompson and Derek Grant were terrible in the playoffs. The only guy you can make an argument for that they actually did let walk was Tyler Pitlick.
And I
don't even know if Tyler Pitlick's fixing this team right now. You know what I mean? Like a bottom six guy isn't fixing the situation.
No, but I think Tyler Pitlick would be a better fourth line option than, maybe some of the people that are on the ice for this team now.
Well, anybody in the other game, sure.
I listen. You mentioned in our group text yesterday that there was a chance we'd see Sam Morin 13th forward, and that ended up not happening. But they actually speculated on the broadcast if Sam would see any time here, given kind of the physicality of the season so far. And it certainly seemed like JJ was implying that the Flyers have been pushed around a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think, maybe not against New Jersey coming up here, but do you think Sam Morin makes the lineup in, say the next dozen games or so?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, and I say yes because if he's now the 13th guy, you might have to put him in for somebody who is a regular at this point just to send a message.
Okay.
That if you do not want to show up and play, and if you do not want to give the effort, and you do not want to take a hit to make a play or do something that's, play soft like that, then you're not going to play. And I don't care what amount of money you make or how many years you've played in the league. Like watch it be a guy like Scott Lawton, for example.
I was about to say, if you're Alain Vigneault and you get to, if you can whisper in Alain Vigneault's ear and tell him who to scratch to make room for Sam Morin here, to send that message right now, today, Sunday, January 24th, Kevin, who are you picking? Who are you scratching from this Flyers 12?
If I had to scratch somebody for the very next game,
it's just one game. Yep. One game, send a message. Yeah.
Nick Aube-Kubel.
Okay. I don't think that's impactful enough.
I agree. I don't like if I'm sitting here trying to be realistic about what I like more like that's more or less what I like who I think could be. You know what I mean? Like he got kind of put on the shelf a little bit in one of the games because it wasn't going so well.
Right.
His ice time went down a little bit. That's the indication to me that things aren't peachy with this situation. But
yeah,
because let's say, are they going to scratch Claude Giroux? No. You know, are they going to scratch Jake Voracek? No. I mean, if you want to send a message, then maybe scratch a guy who scored a couple goals for you in a Thursday game, and then it doesn't matter what you did in Thursday's game. Scratch JVR.
See,
you know, and I'm not saying or scratch a kid. You know,
the problem with JVR. You know I mean? The problem with JVR, I think he actually had a pretty decent week.
He did have a decent week, but what I'm saying is that might be the impact you need. Like, you know what I mean?
Over the course of the 4-game week, I think JVR was probably your second or third best forward all week, if you kind of take it as a whole. And that's, you know, he's making the kind of money where he should be your second or third best forward, and he is kind of playing down in the lineup a little bit. But I really think that if you're going to make this impact, if you're going to send this message, kind of has to be Jake Voracek. Because you can't scratch a center at this point. You just can't afford to. Especially because Sam Moran's not going to come in and take draws, certainly. So at this point, you can't scratch a center. So you're left to a kid, Lindblom Konechny. Or
it's not going to be Konechny because Konechny scored with regularity at least. You're not taking him off the ice.
So you're looking at Jake Voracek, James Van Riemsdyk, or one of your bottom 6 guys, right? Like a Michael Raffel or whoever.
See, here's the thing that you were trying to find guys who you said you could say played okay. I would say Michael Raffel was included in that group because he was harder on the forecheck than a lot of the other guys. It wasn't not that anything was hard about the forecheck or that they were good in that area, but I could at least see he was trying.
Right. I don't think scratching Nick Aube-Kubel sends the message to the top 6, right? That doesn't. And that's where you need the message. That's where you need the shakeup. I would much rather see Jake sit a game. Maybe you wait till the next set of back-to-backs and give him a night off, right? I mean, you don't have to call it a benching. But you give Jake a night off. All of a sudden, you got some new blood in your top 6, whoever it is, whoever ends up coming up. Maybe Aube-Kubel gets to run with the top 6 for a game. Give him a try. If something's going to change, I think something has to change in the top 6. Because we're not seeing this team lose 3-2 games in overtime that are tight fought, blah, blah, blah. We are seeing 60-minute poor efforts. And that's the problem. Like, out of the 13 periods the Flyers played this week, how many can you confidently say they won? They won the 3 periods in Buffalo on Tuesday. Probably the first period against Boston on Thursday. And is that it? Are those the only periods they won all week?
I'll give you the second period against Buffalo in the second game. I'll give you the second period against Boston on Thursday because that was definitely a clear win. Because you held them.
You have to take the third period in the Buffalo game on Tuesday too, because they did close the door.
They closed the door, but they did it too much because of Brian Elliott again. I mean, you gave up 22 shots. I'm sorry, 16. 22 was Thursday.
Right.
I'll talk about that in a little bit too, because that's another disgrace of this team. You know what? We keep talking about. I'm going to make a little bit of not a bold statement, but I'm just going to tell it like it is here. We've talked for a little bit here. Oh, who do you take out? How do you make a shake up? Who do you send a message to in the top 6? You know what you do? You don't.
Okay.
Because this is a group that was around mostly last year, right? There's one new piece to this group, essentially, aside from guys who returned from injury or illness or whatever. There's one new piece. There's no excuse whatsoever, and you need to figure out right now whether or not your problem is player personnel, whether it's a coaching structure, because one of the other things I will credit this problem to is the Montreal series from last summer. You changed your style because you were getting pushed around then and you needed to do something to win that series. So you changed your style and never went back to what was being successful for you, and you're not doing it now either. Go back to what made you successful in the regular season because that was working And I get the personnel's different, without Sean Couturier, maybe it's harder to do. So maybe you have to make an adjustment. But this is what the coaches get. This is what Alain Vigneault's getting paid money to do. This is what the players are getting paid money to do. You got to go out. You've got to go out and if I'm Chuck Fletcher, I know it's how easy, because I even thought about it last night, and I'm watching the game and I'm going, you know what? Chuck Fletcher talks an awful lot about how Ron Hextall left the cupboard stocked. Lots of good pieces in there, a lot of good pieces in the pipeline. It's a team that's still on the rise. It's a team that has a lot of prospects that are going to be good for the future. Now might be the time for you to take that note and start to think about which ones you can move. Because you might need to do something like that now to get better now, knowing you still have a couple of guys who you can put your trust in later. And I'm not sitting here saying do it I'm not sitting here telling you trade Cam York or something like that. You know what I mean? But I'm sitting here telling you, dig close to the top if you think, and start to think about it.
I could see guys like Tanner Laczynski, Wyatt Wiley, some of these kind of
Laczynski would be an interesting one. And I don't know if he would go because he hasn't been able to get into a game yet. I'd love, what? See, right about now, and I know he's still recovering, things like that. Right about now, I'd love to see him in a game because this is where the door would open, I would think, but at the same time, if I'm Chuck Fletcher, my message to Alain Vigneault today and my message to everybody else, and they don't practice today, by the way, because I saw something about wondering if they practice today, they should be bag skated to death.
They should have been on the ice in Voorhees at 6 a.m.
Well, they don't practice today, and tomorrow they're back at it to work on it. And I would hope it's as intensive a practice as they've ever had for the effort. But
the thing is, you have to be careful with running the guys ragged.
Yep. Exactly.
They just played 4 games this week, and they didn't just look bad last night against Boston. They looked tired. They looked like they had gone through the ringer.
Well, they looked tired because it was a 4-6, and I'm not denying that. But at the same time, again, no excuse. Every team in the league is playing 4-6.
A lot of 4
every
and
team
this year,
and every team in the league didn't have a preseason, and every team in the league is possibly dealing with an injury of some sort. You just played a team that is missing their top scorer.
Right, there's teams.
Give me a break. And not only missing a team, you played a team missing their top scorer that looked like they were missing their top scorer because in 3 games they had 3 goals.
Yep.
And for 2 periods, you made it look like they were missing your top
goal
scorer.
5-on-5. By the way, the Bruins had not scored a goal 5-on-5 before Thursday's game.
And that's the thing that bothers me. For 2 periods, you made it look like they missed their top scorer. Because they couldn't score then either. And you're going, geez, you know what? Carter Hart's dialed in on Thursday. Bergeron's not doing it. Marchand's not doing it. And the rest of these guys are out there going, oh, my God, we don't have that top guy anymore. What do we do? And they're frustrated and they're getting tired. And they're looking at it like, what do we have to do to score a goal? And then you gave up 4. You gave them more than they scored in the entire season at that point in 1 period.
And the Flyers pulled a good old-fashioned Toronto Maple Leafs and blew a big old lead to the Boston Bruins in the 3rd period.
And I wouldn't even call it blowing a big lead, but
you should win that game.
Well, you should win that game, but holy crap, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
You came out, you just decided for 2 minutes, don't play, and that's how quickly they can tie it up because they're the Boston Bruins,
man. Right. The year before last, they were in the Stanley Cup final. They're still a good team.
So that part was a joke. And then add in the game on Saturday, too. Again, a team that in 3 games scored 3 goals. They played you twice, and after, what would it be? After 10 periods, 11 periods, they played 3 goals on their season, none at 5-on-5. They come out and in the next 4 periods score 10 goals.
It's unacceptable. You
can't be that soft. Simple as that.
And there is some element of, okay, Boston figured it out and they got a little hot right away. That's one of those things that kind of tends to happen. Once the dam breaks, you score a couple. And it just happened to, the dam just happened to break against the Flyers. And maybe it's just that, right? Maybe at the end of the day, we look back and just say, oh, it was a blip in the schedule. And, the boys were still getting their legs together. But as we sit here right now, man, I don't know. I said it in my post-game video last night. I don't know if this team's getting 2 points out of Jersey, let alone the 3 or 4 they probably should get.
All right, so here's what. Let me finish the previous thought because I didn't actually say what is it. If I'm Chuck Fletcher, the message I have for Alain Vigneault and the message I have for the players today is help's not coming. I can't make a move right now because there's too much money on IR. There's too much money that's going to come back once guys are healthy again, and it's part of the game. You have to deal with it. Yep. The message then to me as a general manager of this team, figure it out. If you don't figure it out, it's going to blow up.
The offseason is going to get bloody.
Yep.
And
it goes right back to what I had said a year ago. The whole, this is it. You don't have a place to hide anymore. The GM's not going to take the fall. The coach is not going to take the fall. It's going to be the players. It's going to be the players this time.
Yep.
And if you do not want to play hard and you do not want to be a successful team and work on the things that you need to work on, because I even referred to it. I called, like, after watching Thursday's game and all the problems that they did have and giving up 4 goals in the third period, I looked at it and I went, not everything, but at least half of what they're doing is fixable. It's self-inflicted. You're just playing sloppy. You're not executing. If you just execute, you wouldn't give up 2 of the 4 goals. You might give up 1 on a bad bounce. I'm not saying that, but you're not even, but why is an opponent getting 40 shots against you per game? Because you can't get out of your own way.
The Flyers have a shots against problem. And we've seen that this year. Teams are absolutely peppering the Flyers. And I don't know if you're missing Sean Couturier, if you're missing your reigning Selke winner, or if your defense just isn't good enough, or I don't know what the situation is, but a team with Sean Couturier, Kevin Hayes, Ivan Provorov shouldn't be giving up 40 shots a game. It just should not be happening. When you have 2 centers who are as defensively responsible as Sean Couturier and Kevin Hayes, and I'm not even mentioning Claude Giroux, who's very good defensively as well. If you have 2 guys who are that good defensively, there is no excuse for the defensive effort we've seen out of the team this year.
It's pathetic. It's been pathetic. And, one of the things I wanted to talk about, I'm tired of hearing about it, and I know we've been at this, not us particularly, but we've been at this for years. This is the thing that people have done for years and years and years at this point with this team. I'm tired of talking about how good somebody is at a different level. I'm tired of acting like every prospect that Ron Hextall drafted and Chuck Fletcher has drafted is going to be a hit. I'm tired of talking about that type of stuff, that potential. I'm not going there anymore because most of these guys are here now. Most of these guys have been here for a while. I'll tell you somebody has potential because they all have potential in their own way. It might be potential to be a third pairing defenseman. It might be a third liner. It might be a top guy. But until you live up to it, until you actually come out and show that level, I'm not buying it anymore. I'm done buying it because look, I talked up Joel Farabee at the beginning of the year and said, here's my candidate. He can be a breakout player this season. And he had 4 points on opening night and played a great game.
And you look like a genius.
But still, you know what happened since then? Crickets.
Yep.
Nothing. I haven't seen anything from him in 5 games now.
And that's
so much for
power play time.
So much so that he was on the 4th line last night.
Yep.
I've talked about Nolan Patrick and Oscar Lindblom, and I've talked about how they could be big additions from within. And I don't want to single out Oscar Lindblom. He's had some good moments this season collectively. I'm not talking about last night specifically, but he's had good moments during the year. He scored a goal. He scored 2.
Pretty good overall. Yeah.
And he's not to be singled out as part of the problem, but he is part of this team. And if everybody on the team can be better, then he needs to be better as well. He needs to show he's better than he can be. Nolan Patrick had one of the worst shifts on a power play I have ever seen in my life last night. That was brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't care what your situation is. You made your return now. You're 6 games back. You got to be better. I don't care anymore. You're 2-3 weeks back and 6 games in. I don't care if you haven't played in a year or 2. You got to start to figure it out. You got to get better as it goes, not worse. He looked better in the first game of the season than he did in the game last night.
Yeah, and that's fair. And we talked a little bit after the Buffalo game on Monday night about, okay, maybe this Buffalo team just took that extra week practice and really put it to good use, right? Maybe it was a preparation thing and they had a little extra time. They were the fresher team. That's why they won.
Mm-hmm.
Boston didn't have that time. If anything, Boston probably had a rougher offseason than the Flyers did.
Right.
And they're older. If you want players to be good in the first 10 games of the season after no training camp, you expect those players to be the young, quick, boom, we're right back in it. Boom, we're right back in it. Patrice Bergeron looked great these 2 games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's 1,000.
I'll even go as far as to talk about guys who are established vets now. Ivan Provorov, Travis Sanheim, Robert Haig, Phil Myers when he's in the lineup, Nick Aube-Kubel, Scott Lawton, Travis Konechny. Like, you have to play to your potential and earn it at this point. I'm tired of talking about how good you can be. Oh, that fourth line looks really good because Scott Lawton's your fourth line center. You know how many teams would take that? I'm not talking about it right now. No team would take that line.
No.
You know what I mean? And we've talked for years and years about how these players can start to take this step in their careers, that after as the years go on, they'll develop, they'll get better. The team will get better as a result. And you know what? Like, that's the thing. They did get better because last year they showed something that made everybody get excited about them, that made everybody say they are close. They're close. Look at this, I get it. It's a weird year. Guys maybe didn't get the ice time that they usually have or work out the way they usually do in the offseason. And it's an adjustment period. And after it's not an excuse, but after 6 games, I'm sorry, I have no sympathy for you. You're a professional athlete. You make millions of dollars to play a game. If you don't want to go out and get hit, if you don't want to work hard, if you don't want to be tougher than this, if you don't want to correct the lazy, sloppy, careless plays on the ice that are that make you look like you don't know fundamentals. If you don't want to do that, then get out. Don't take the ice. I even, like I told you earlier, I'd rather play Sam Moran. I'd rather play Igor Zamula. I'll take the next kid in line in goal if it's going to make them better because you're getting a better effort than what I've seen. And I'm not and that's why I'm saying you don't make, and look, that's why I said, if you're Chuck Fletcher, you come and you say, I'm not helping you. There's no quick fix. It's not coming anytime soon because you don't make wholesale changes based on a week.
No.
But at the same time, if you have high expectations for yourself, if you want to point to last year, talk about the run you made, talk about getting into the playoffs, winning a round, coming up 1 game short of the conference finals and all that type of stuff.
If you want to be a cup contender, you have to step it up. The Flyers right now are not a cup contender. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say because of the fact that you need to go and play the way that you played to get to that status to begin with. If you don't want to do that, then stop talking like it.
Yep.
You have to prove it.
And Flyers had the 4th best odds in the preseason of winning the Stanley Cup. And nope.
Well, look, they had the 4th best odds because, again, if you're assuming that Sean Couturier provides structure and you're assuming that Phil Myers provides something that they can't get back.
Right.
I don't know if Phil Myers is legitimately a top 4 guy completely yet, per se.
He's a better defenseman than whatever guy gets in the lineup.
He's a better defenseman than Mark Friedman. And Mark Friedman's kind of a guy who, without targeting him directly again, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about prospects you draft. We can sit there and look and go, Mark Friedman had a couple of solid games last year filling in for somebody and go, boy, maybe that means he can, when he gets his shot, there's something there to it.
Mark Friedman will be a phantom in 2 weeks when the AHL gets started. And that's where he belongs. Mark Friedman, if you watch this, I hope you know that was a poor effort last night. And you played very poor. And I wanted you off the ice every time you stepped on the ice. Last night was an Andrew McDonald game out of you, Mark. And you got to step it up, bud, because this city didn't like Andrew McDonald very much. And the effort you showed last night was right about there.
I don't think anything you're saying there is fair to say and I'll tell you why.
Hold on. Emotional.
And I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to compare him to Andrew McDonald because it's not an overpayment. He's a kid. He's on a cheap contract, and you're bringing him up only because you have injuries at the position. You're missing 2 guys realistically. Right. You know what I mean? This is your number 8 having to play in a game because 1 guy's hurt and 1 guy was on the COVID list. So don't. I'm not sitting here saying call him Andrew McDonald. He's like the next to the next in line.
I know.
That being said, that's what I mean when I sit there and I talk about a prospect getting touted as like a potential hit. Like, I'm sorry. He's been in the system for how long? You might just be a lifelong AHLer, pal. I'm sorry. You're not cutting it at this level. It's just not looking good. And I'm not interested, I'm not interested in excuses anymore. And that's the thing. Like, I don't even know if a win on Tuesday satisfies me. Like, no.
I think you have to beat the Devils 5-0 in both games for me to go, oh, okay, they're okay.
Well, no, all right,
they're gonna be fine.
All right, hold on.
Like, not literally, but you know what I mean. I need to see
exactly like here's the thing. A win on Tuesday will feel better because a win on last Tuesday felt better. You lost 6-1 to Buffalo. You came out. I don't even care if it wasn't your best game. You won 3-0 against Buffalo. The team that just dismantled you the night before. Feels good, doesn't it? 3 out of 4. Feels good. No reason to be disappointed with a win. It might not be the best looking win, but no reason to be disappointed with the result. It's a result. But I don't know if winning completely satisfies me. I feel like I need to see a game where, and I'm not like, here's the thing. They've showed that they have the ability to win convincingly on the scoreboard because they've won a 6-3 game, a 5-2 game, and a 3-0 game. They're all 3-goal wins. That's comfortable.
Up. Yeah.
But that's comfortable. That's not grinding it out and having to win a couple games in overtime to get them. Right. That's good wins, even when you don't play your best. But I need to see them come out, win on the scoreboard convincingly, actually carry the play, and allow 20 shots.
Right.
And dominate a game and show me that they have that in them. And in a way, I know they have it in them, like I said, because they just 3 games that they've won this year, they've won by 3 goals. It's not like they can't get a lead and then build on it and be successful in that way. But if and I'm saying, like, if you weren't a good, like, that's why I struggle with sitting here going, oh, this team's flawed, this team's bad, blah, blah, blah. You're a good team at the core because you can do those things. If you clean up your own act, if you play with the energy and the aggression that you need to have, then you can be that team. You're literally, as far as I can tell, choosing not to. That's what I'm seeing.
And obviously, I don't think anybody's sitting in the locker room going, yeah, we're going to suck tonight. But based on what we've seen, they're certainly not sitting there going, yep, we're going to play great tonight. Because I haven't seen it much. And if I've seen it for a game, I saw it at the beginning of the Boston game. First 10 minutes of the Boston game, I saw that. And then it disappeared. And I agree with you. Something has to change. And it's probably going to be on the player personnel point at this point, because you got Dave Haxtell fired. You got Ron Hextall fired. Sorry, Claude, you're kind of next in line. And again, I have never been a trade the captain guy. I have never been one of these.
And I'm tired of people talking about him specifically too.
But at a certain point, it becomes a leadership issue. When you're seeing effort like we saw last night, where it's a leadership effort because there's no effort on the ice. When you've replaced the head coach, there's only one other leader you're looking at. Really, right? You want your captain to come out and get the boys fired up and get them playing. And we talked about it a little bit. I saw a little bit of it during the 2 games against Pittsburgh, where Claude was fired up. Claude was hitting people. Claude was, John Marino. But since then, where's Cap gone? He's been pretty quiet. And again, if you've listened to this show for a while, you know that I have never been on the trade the captain plan. And I'm still not. I still think Claude Giroux is a very good hockey player. But if Sean Couturier is not here to lead, Claude, you got to step back up on the ice. And I don't know.
Look, I hate the argument of because it singles out one guy. When everybody has an off night, everybody has an off night, and that's just the way it goes. I'm not disagreeing with your leadership thought there. It falls on leadership to be better. To step up and
Thursday wasn't an off night. Monday was an off night. Saturday was an off night. I'll give you those. Everybody had off nights. Thursday, you blew a 2-goal lead in the third period.
But the problem I have with singling out a guy is that guy's not on the ice to do the job every single time.
You're right.
So that doesn't translate to me as a leadership issue because you blew a game. Unless you were on the ice for the very first shift of the period and set the tone in that way, then maybe it's a leadership issue. Like, we can coast through this game because we got the 2-0 lead. They can't score. It's over.
And if that's watch Claude Giroux's first shift for the record.
Like, it's not going to matter because the point is that it's probably whoever started the period on the ice. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And who I know was on the ice for the goal against that got Boston on the board on Thursday?
Okay.
It was Nolan Patrick's line.
Yep.
Nolan Patrick played a shift that he got skated around like he was just an orange traffic cone.
Yep. That looked like something that happened in training camp. And you go, ooh, you better fix that before the season starts. Except the season already started.
And so that's why I don't like the people who are going to sit there and say Carter Hart stinks. It's on Claude Giroux. Where's the captain? He's, captain, whatever. Like, what a poor captain. Get him out of here. That kind of thing. Like, it's not that simple. You know, do you think if you think that you change something, like let's say you change it, whether it's you change from Claude Giroux as your captain or you traded him or something, like, which you can't do, we get that, but you know what I mean. But do you think that that's going to really change things?
Well, here's the thing, and for the record, I am not sitting here advocating trading Claude Giroux, blah blah blah. I'm hoping that the team turns it around and that we don't have this issue anymore. I don't think trading Claude Giroux would solve the problem, but if the issue truly is a culture issue, then I think it becomes necessary. I don't think trading Claude Giroux is the best move on the ice because I think he's a very good player. But if you need a new leader, you might need a new leader. How long has Claude been the captain? Long enough that every single person on the team has come and gone since.
How long has Claude been the captain? Long enough that when he takes the ice on Tuesday, he will be the longest tenured captain by games in Flyers history, passing a guy like Bobby Clark.
Well, there we go. And
yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I understand where the frustration comes from because you are the captain of this team and you have been for, what would this be, 8 years now?
Yeah.
If you're not having success, at some point in time, the finger points to you as the problem.
And it's already pointed at everybody else. It's already
kind of, yes, because
Hextall, he got fired. It was pointed at Ron Hextall, he got fired.
Well, because what they're going to do is they're going to look at Claude Giroux as the constant of the problem, right? You've gone through technically 3 GMs since Claude Giroux became the captain, because he became the captain with Paul Holmgren still here. Then Ron Hextall took over. Now Chuck Fletcher is here. He's still the captain. How many head coaches? Technically,
a bunch.
Peter Laviolette, Craig Berube, Dave Hextall, Scott Gordon, now Alain Vigneault. I know Scott Gordon's being generous.
Only an interim.
All right, so realistically 4, but 5, right? So after a certain point, you sit there and you go, how much longer can you last with this situation? That's why I said all bets are off now. You went outside of the organization. You did not go to somebody like a Ron Hextall, you know, who hired a college coach who more or less probably could have been his pawn, you know,
his yes man. And we all kind of assume that that's kind of
right.
how the organization.
All right, but fine. Let's go back to something else then. You don't pick Craig Berube to be your head coach for a full season. You know, if you don't want somebody within the organization who knows the background of the organization and says, we're going to honor the history and be that team.
Coach Craig Berube, which is the irony of it.
Yeah, I know, but Craig Berube didn't have a history with St. Louis to then become a good coach. Like you can learn from the experience. It just seemed like such a typical Flyer move at the time. You know, let's get the guy who used to play for the team, who's been with the organization for half of his life.
Rick Tocchet, John Stevens. We've done this before. We've been here.
Rick Tocchet at least was never a coach.
Not Rick Tocchet. I'm sorry. I'm talking about Bill Barber.
Oh, Bill.
Remember head coach Bill Barber?
Head coach Bill Barber won a Jack Adams, though, so I can't go that far with you, you know.
Sure, but the Flyers for a very, very long time, sorry, Ed Snyder, the Flyers for a very long time were a nepotism organization. You're a Flyer for life. You got a job if you want it. You're in the front office. You're moving up. Why is Paul Holmgren still on this team at all? After his GM tenure, he shouldn't be in hockey.
Here is the thing, though. Okay, no, I agree. Just here's the thing, especially when it comes to a good example being the Bill Barber, the coach thing. Okay, Bill Barber was a Jack Adams winner in 1 year, and I think like fired the next. You know,
yeah.
When Ed Snyder was still alive, this type of stuff led to a significant change 2 days later. You know,
because I was at Bill Barber's last game as the Philadelphia Flyers head coach.
That's funny. I've been at a lot of other Flyers last games as head coach. If you want to, you know, not from the press experience, but
I was also at John Stevens last.
Okay, so was I. Yeah, that was one we talked about.
Yeah, and also I think I was at Peter Laviolette's last home game too.
Okay, I can't go that far with you. Yeah. I was not, but
yeah.
But by the time I was actually covering the team and stuff like that, then I think yes, I was at Craig Berube's last. I was at at Dave Hextall's last, or well, actually, no, I wasn't, because technically Dave Hextall's last, I think, came on the road.
No, his last home game.
So it was last home game, yes, but that is what that'll be what it'll be. Right. But that's the thing. Like, this is what we're back to. You know, that's the comments I saw, and that was as fiery and as, you know, as I will call it, as reasonably irrational as Flyers Twitter can be since the Hackstall days.
It was bad.
You know, because everybody wants to make a trade. Everybody wants Claude Giroux not to be the captain anymore. Everybody wants to know what Chuck Fletcher's doing, what he's done to be part, like to help this team out, that kind of thing. And it's like, what did you have to do? You were a team on the rise with a lot of young players who we've insisted are going to keep growing.
Great cap situation. Like we talked all summer about how great the cap situation was, how young the forward core was, how we're like set. We're good to go. Carter Hart's 22 and looking like a Vezina candidate. Like we came in over the summer. Man, I don't remember the last time Flyers expectations were this high. They certainly have not been this high since at minimum Mike Richards was here.
No, I'll tell you when the expectations were last this high. Going into the last shortened season they had, which was 13, because Claude Giroux was becoming captain, and they had just made another playoff run where they dominated the Pittsburgh Penguins in a playoff series.
Right.
And the thought process behind it was, it's going to be, if they can be the same team, you've got Claude Giroux as your leader, that kind of thing. And it was a shortened year, so it was a little different, but there was thoughts that it could be continuing to go that direction, that they were going to continue
trending upward.
Well, not just trending upward, because 2 years earlier they'd been in the Stanley Cup final. So the thought was they're still right there. Look at how good this team looked.
The window is still wide open.
Right. And it closed quickly when you lost a lot during that year. And look, through 6 games, 3-2-1 is not as bad as 2013's 2-4-0.
Oh, that was ugly.
You know what I mean? And a season where there was fewer games than this one. This is 56. That was 48. You didn't get your 4th win of the season until your 10th game. You're going to play your 7th game on Tuesday.
I mean, if they don't get their 4th win until their 10th game of the season this year, chalk it. It's over. You're not making the playoffs.
Well, yes, because by that point, then you will have let this thing spread from a 2-game losing streak to a
5-game losing streak.
Well, I'm not even going to quantify it as 2-game losing streak at that point in time. What I will quantify it as is you're going to have gone from losing 3 out of 4 to
like 7
5 out of 6.
5 out of 6.
And if you go on a 5 out of 6 stretch, you're doomed in this.
Yeah, in a 56 game
season.
That's
why I sat there, and that's why one of the things I sat there and I've been saying throughout the week is I am fully willing to acknowledge that it's not perfect play on the ice, and it shouldn't be expected to be perfect play. It's got to be watchable. It's got to be something that gets you in the right direction to win a game. But when you come out and you played Buffalo and you won the second game, and now you're 3-1 on the season, I even said, ask the Edmonton Oilers how they're feeling right now, or ask Edmonton Oilers fans how they're feeling, I should say, because when you're 1-3 or 1-4, 5 games into a 56-game season with 2 of the best players in the world on your team, you're going, what the hell is this?
Right.
And how quickly then can they correct it? Because if they don't, they're not going to make the playoffs.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the Flyers can at least sit there and say, this is the good news. If there is any good news, they can at least sit there and say, as they wake up on Sunday morning, that they are one of 9 teams in the league with 7 or more points early on in this season. Nobody can take that away.
Right.
But you can't play like that and expect it to stay that way. That's the thing. You're losing. What you're doing wrong at this point is not that you're not winning a game every so often. You're playing with a flawed process that says we can survive this by giving up this many shots. Our goalies are good. They'll keep us in a game, and we'll be opportunistic and we'll win.
Yep. And
it worked 3 out of 4 times. It worked, and now it didn't. And I don't even know. I don't even know if I'm confident going into a game against the Devils right now. And you don't know why? Because I saw it earlier in the week, or previous week maybe. I watched this Boston team that just dismantled you from top to bottom for 2 games. Play that team as tough as, anybody. Gave up 3 goals in 2 games. Won a game in overtime. Lost a game in a shootout. Final score is less than 5 total goals scored both times. And the Devils are a team that are going to trap you this way. We know it.
Yep.
Lindy Ruff and company are probably licking their chops right now watching this game tape, going,
Flyers look vulnerable.
Look at all the mistakes they make. Look at all the open space that they allow for opponents to have. They're licking their chops right now. They are ready for this. And there may be still, that's why I sat there. I threw it in the group chat last night. There may be 1 or 2 more games They are still your grace period for the lack of the preseason thing.
Yep.
You know, because I'll give you the fact that a preseason is 6 to 8 games usually, and you didn't get any, and you're trying to play through it like it's a preseason. But the problem I have with saying that, and I'm running out of time with that, this is your chance to be a relevant team again.
Yeah.
This is your chance, even with that, that's why I said, even with the losses, you're going to walk into today, Sunday morning, January 24th. You are walking into this day as one of the 4 playoff teams in the East and a team with 7 points out of 12.
Yep.
Could be worse. Definitely could be better.
Should be better.
Right. But but you're still in a playoff spot. It's still early by that logic. You can change this course starting tomorrow.
Yep.
And playing on Tuesday. But if you don't fix it in another game or two and continue to do this, continue to be dominated, continue to make the same mistakes, not improve your game, do all that stuff, you will not make the playoffs this season.
No.
And like we've said all show, you do not want to see what's going to happen to this roster if you don't make the playoffs.
Hey, you've seen the movie Miracle, right?
Yep.
I assumed so.
Multiple times.
I'm gonna speak to the team here, gentlemen. You don't have enough talent to win on talent alone. You don't, and we've seen that this season. We need you to play better hockey. We need you to play more fundamental. We need you to play defense, for Christ's sakes. You don't have enough talent to win on talent alone. You're the 1980 Americans, man. Good luck.
But that's a message to the coaching staff as well. Like I said, the Montreal series currently has ruined this team because they're soft. They don't play physical. They don't want to go into the dirty areas. They don't want to battle for the puck. They don't want to be on the forecheck. They don't do a lot of that stuff. And everything that they did in the last 2 months of the 2019-2020 regular season, everything they did in the round robin that made them hotter than any team in the league. They probably, they were among the best in the league.
Yep. Number 1 seed coming out of the East in the bubble.
They threw it out the window because the Montreal Canadiens, a 12 seed in the playoffs, came in and pushed them around a little bit.
Yep. And then the New York Islanders ground them to a pulp in round 2. That's the other.
But you know what? Welcome to the playoffs, boys. Yep. Welcome to the playoffs.
And speaking of those Islanders, you're going to see them next weekend. Next weekend, you got a 2-game set in Long Island, Saturday, Sunday, bang, bang. Barry Trotz, here you go.
Right. Well, and look, to go back to the Montreal thing for a minute, it's hard, and you have to really earn it, and you will work harder when nobody gives you a chance, like the Montreal Canadiens. When nobody's giving you a chance, you're going to sit there, and that's bulletin board material, and you're going, everybody's picking against us. We'll show them we're going to play harder than we ever have before. Sure, that's fine. But they took what happened in that Canadian series, and then it did carry over to the Islanders series. And the small adjustments that they did make in the Montreal series that did ultimately help them win in Game 6, that doesn't help you survive. Well, right. You did it to basically survive. It didn't work against the Islanders, obviously.
No, the Islanders were a better version of what Montreal was trying to do to you.
But even then, you somehow, against all odds in that sense, carried the series to 7 games.
Yep.
And
winning Game 6 when you needed to.
Right. But you've got to get that.
It's crazy. The Flyers were, one good game away from the Eastern Conference Finals. And we're sitting here 6 games into the next season trying to figure out what went wrong. And it's just the same. It's the same effort. And obviously, I think we saw a little better effort in the bubble. The guys were really juicing, really trying. But we just haven't seen it. We saw it against Pittsburgh a little bit, and the Flyers got 4 points out of Pittsburgh. But since then, I don't know. I don't think the team wants to win.
Well, take this for what it's worth. Kind of a little bit of a breaking one here.
Okay.
Derek Pouliot was loaned back to the Phantoms from the taxi squad. Okay. Sam Moran and Connor Bunnaman are both on the taxi squad again.
Okay.
So take this for what it's worth. Now, granted, that's on off days, that's a cap thing.
Right.
But also, I would sit there and say, if you're putting Bunnaman down there, then something's brewing here.
If Moran's ever going to play, it's time. You got a game against Jersey. I don't want to say your back's against the wall, but your back's kind of against the wall. You need a win here. You can't lose 3 straight and 4 of 5. I don't hate Sam Moran on Tuesday. And obviously he's, a month into playing left wing. So I don't know how well it's going to go. But I think you give it a shot. And why not? Right.
And I can't believe that we're talking about that 6 games into the season that we're talking about give it a shot, even though the guy's never played the position before because.
And not only that, but we're like looking for it. It's not something that the team's doing and we're going, oh, let's see how this works. We're like, at least I'm actively asking for it. And it sounds crazy because, again, the guy's only been playing left wing for 3 weeks. But you need something. And I'm not going to sit here and say they need to trade for a big hulking blah, 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 some big physical presence. They need to trade for Patrick Laine, whatever.
Okay, can we address that one for a moment before we wrap up?
Yeah, we're on our way out of here. Let our listeners know that our shows are probably going to be a little shorter here because we are putting out so much content surrounding the games. But before we get out, we did want to talk about the rest of the league. We are a full-blown hockey podcast, even though we do talk about the Flyers for the most part. But yeah, let's talk about the Patrick Laine trade. Kevin, why don't you lay it out for us?
Well, I'll tell you. All right, let's lay out what the deal is first. Sure. Yeah. So basically, throughout the week, we kind of sat there and we were watching this situation in Columbus as Pierre-Luc Dubois was playing 3.5 minutes of ice time and not seeing the ice for the final 2 periods of a game. And John Tortorella was sitting here saying, I'm coaching the same way I always do. Sometimes a player just gets lost in the shuffle, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I'm not even the one who's calling out, the names or whatever, right? Like even that type of stuff, whatever. That was a situation that was really bad from the beginning. Everybody knew Dubois wanted out of Columbus, right? And it's not the first time a player has said, I want out of Columbus. And, Oh, hold on a second, Kyle. We lost your audio.
That's not even the first time in recent history that a player wanted out of Columbus, right? We just saw Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin bounce, as well as Matt Duchene bounced, because it turns out nobody wants to live in Ohio.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. It's the same and it's different because those guys played out that final year, and Tortorella even said this, and he's right. They played out that year. They gave it their all. They made a run if they could with that team. And
I do think that team gave it their best. Nobody mailed it in.
But when it came time to go, gee, where can we go cash in and make some money and play? Well, and I don't even think it's that, because
Artemi Panarin said all along he wanted to go to a big market.
And Panarin took less money than he could have gotten probably to play in New York because that's what he wanted. Right. And Bobrovsky goes to Florida and Duchene goes to Nashville. And basically every single one of them, I don't know about Bobrovsky because Bobrovsky is kind of the interesting one, but Duchene went to where he's always wanted to go. And Panarin went to where he's always wanted to go, I guess.
Since the second Matt Duchene left Colorado, he talked about going to Nashville. So,
yeah. So that'll be what it'll be. So to make a deal.
But either way, the deal, by the way,
yeah,
we never actually laid out what the deal was. Patrick Laine.
I was getting there because
okay.
Yeah, because the situation as it would have it is that there are 2 players in Winnipeg that also had a very questionable situation. Jack Roslovic had said from the beginning, I'm not playing for Winnipeg anymore. I'm done, and would not even play a game this year. So that was already a situation. He was already on the trading block.
Do we know what happened there? Like, was there a specific incident or because like with Laine, he's been pretty annoyed for a while there. Like we knew that one. But Roslovic,
I don't know.
It kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere. Like, was there any? It seems, and again, this is I'm speculating a little bit. Seems like there's a little bit of a locker room problem in Winnipeg, and Blake Wheeler kind of came out after Patrick Laine left. There was a little bit of conversation going on. So I think Winnipeg
maybe,
has a issue.
I don't know where that one came from per se. It was definitely
a team that needs a new captain.
Well, it was a lower profile situation because he's not the biggest name, right? I mean, when Laine's going on, you're not exactly all of a sudden dropping everything to go. Okay, Jack Roslovic wants out too.
Jack Roslovic's upset. Oh no.
No, but if Laine was joined by a guy like Mark Scheifele or by well, they don't really have a high end defenseman
anymore.
But yeah.
Oh, so, well, they have Neil Pionk. He's a high end defenseman, right?
Yeah, sure. No, so when you have Patrick and Laine, obviously the situation with Laine wasn't he wanted out immediately. It was about the long term future. It was,
right.
I don't know if I see a future here beyond this season when my contract's up. And that's when teams start to think about, do we just let it play out and keep him and hope for the best and try to see if we can win while we have him? Right. Or do we make a trade because we can get something back that builds for our future by losing this guy? That's what it came down to. it turned out to be a perfect storm because Columbus has a guy who wants out. Winnipeg has two guys has one guy who wants out and one guy who they know they're not going to be able to keep after the season. And it worked out. Winnipeg gets a player who will bolster the middle of the ice for them, who will bring some potential, who brings some youth. Not that Line A didn't, but like Line A was bringing it on the wing. Here's a guy who now slots in
Right
behind. But here's a guy who slots in right behind Scheifele. Now you got two really good ones who have skill and ability and potential and can be top end, potentially talent.
And Dubois is young enough that even after Scheifele moves on, Dubois will still be in his prime.
Correct.
Like, you're still getting prime time.
So all of that works out for them, right? And then on the other side, you've got guys who jump over. Roslovic's not going to be one of the number one guys over in Columbus. He's going to slot in very nicely as part of their defensive depth because now as a team, in addition to Seth Jones, Zach Werenski at the top, you still have de Savard. He's a guy who's still playing for them, and now Roslovic there. That's a pretty good top four you got going right now. And now you added a guy who probably fits the same, not the same mold, but think of a guy like a Panarin who brings a scoring touch. So it makes their team better. It doesn't make a difference right now because it's not within the Flyers division, right. So we don't talk about it that way.
It's a good year for Columbus not to be in the division because I think they won this trade pretty clean. But by the way, the whole trade was Roslovic and Line A to Columbus, Dubois and a third-round pick headed back to Winnipeg.
A third-rounder in 2022. So it's not even this year's pick. Okay. So that's kind of something that's interesting too. Sure. And I'd like to send a message to the people who listen to us.
Okay.
Dear Flyers fans, Patrick Laine got traded to another team yesterday. Give it up. It wasn't going to happen. Same thing with Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Right. And we heard a little bit about some rumors. Apparently Winnipeg was asking for Provorov, Konechny, and more. And if there's a single Flyers fan in the Delaware Valley who would trade Ivan Provorov, Travis Konechny, and someone else for any single player in the league, I literally do not care who it is, then you and I disagree fundamentally, and I don't know what to tell you.
Well, look, here's the thing. As much as, like I said, I do like earlier in the show that I need to see more from Provorov, Konechny, etc., right? We sat there a year ago and went, look at the deals that Chuck Fletcher made for these guys, 6 years each. That's manageable money down the line. And you're going to love those deals 4 or 5 years in, right?
And when Travis Konechny has 5 goals already, you love that deal now.
And look, Ivan Provorov is kind of victimized by the rest of the defense to an extent because he's out there a lot. So the numbers may not look so good, but he's out there all the time because what are you supposed to do? And Provorov had a bad moment in the game on Saturday. He had a bad moment, nearly scored an own goal. It doesn't mean that I'm looking at him and going, get out. I don't want you anymore for one mistake like that. You know what I mean? Like, I know he can be better. He knows he can be better, and I don't have a doubt that he'll improve himself.
Yeah, he's probably been the most consistent player over the last couple of years.
Exactly. And he's still the guy who I think they can't afford to be without because take him off the defense now, and what are the scores we're looking at? What are the scores we're going to be looking at? Like, it would be, it would be so much worse than 5-4 in a shootout or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it just would be so much worse. So I don't, look at, like, I would still not part ways with those guys because you are working towards that, building them into cornerstones.
Right.
And especially for the crowd that is all about it needs a shakeup, trade Claude Giroux, trade Jake Voracek, or get rid of those guys. You might have a point at this point because they have been around for so long. I'll give you that. But you can't just sit there and say then move on from the rest behind it too, because you won't have a team.
Right.
You can't just rebuild the whole thing.
You can't trade everybody.
No, but I can understand, like, you can make the case for the others because they've been around for so long.
Absolutely.
And I keep, like, my defense of Claude Giroux and Jake Voracek, and it's kind of flawed right now because of the injuries, is when Jake Voracek's playing on your third line, it's not so bad. When Claude Giroux's not your top line winger or center, it's not as bad because that means that they shouldn't be getting the bulk of the work or the bulk of the attention. But when Sean Couturier gets hurt, Claude Giroux's playing a lot more minutes.
And
so
by the way,
Jake Voracek.
That was my point about Claude earlier. Not necessarily trading him because I think he should be traded, but there is definitely we're getting to the point where there's a case to be made for trading him because we're looking at almost a decade of stagnation honestly. And sometimes it's time for something new. And we see trades all the time among guys who just need a different situation, and they go to a new team and boom, they're great. Thinking specifically of the Yoki Harju Alex Nylander trade between Buffalo and Chicago a couple years ago. That kind of worked out both ways, where both players just figured it out. I'm not saying Claude Giroux needs a change of scenery, because I think Claude, whatever. I think the Philadelphia Flyers, there's a chance that they might need a change of scenery here at some point. And that was my point on that, by the way. So I definitely agree that, like, we might be getting there.
Well, look, I'll harken back to something else from back to that era that I was talking about too, because one of the things that made that team stand out so much, and part of it is that they had to do a lot of things without the said individual I'm going to go to, and I feel like you're already figuring it out, but I'll play the mystery game with the rest of the listeners. Ask yourself what would happen if Chris Pronger was on this team right now, and you went out in 5 games into the season, lost 6-1 twice, or 6
Chris
games. Chris Pronger
would be tearing heads off in the locker room.
Exactly. And you can be determined all you want to. And like I said, all I can do right now for this moment is tell you, wait and see on the next game, see what kind of effort you get on the next game. But if you're going out there and then losing 2 to New Jersey, if you're going in to play the Islanders twice next week and not getting a good result because they play that style game that you can't keep up with, it's going to be problematic, and it's going to be problematic sooner rather than later for this team.
No more excuses. Adapt or fall behind.
Well, exactly. And I've been saying that the whole show at this point.
Right. You tried to adapt to Montreal. It was poor. You adapted just enough to squeak through. Couldn't adapt to New York. That shut you down. And you still haven't adapted back to whatever the metagame is in the East, man. And the metagame in the East is tight defensive play. And we've seen it out of Boston. Well, sometimes. We're going to see it out of the Islanders. It's going to be a tough division to get through. And we need a better effort than what we've seen so far, for sure. And you got 2 games with New Jersey here. It might be a little too early in the season to say you need 3 points, but you're pretty close to needing 3 points here. Do you agree with that? Or
here's what I agree with at this point, because nobody in the division. Maybe Washington, and Washington impressed me this week because their whole situation, which we never even got into, with losing 4 guys for 4 games due to the COVID protocols and being fined for $100,000.
Maybe we'll touch on that next week.
I feel like what I just said is enough to touch on it. But here's the point being, they go out and they play Buffalo on Friday night without those guys, and they win. Took a shootout, but they win. Yep. No top goalie, one of your top defensemen missing, 2 top forwards.
You're losing your entire skill set, right? Your entire skill core of your team.
And I watched it, and I watched as they had a power play in overtime, and no Ovechkin out there with 4 guys on the ice for them. And
no Kuznetsov, no Ovechkin.
Well, no Kuznetsov either. But with no Ovechkin on the ice, the Sabres played the penalty kill at 4-on-3 totally differently, because you're not spotting Ovechkin. You're sitting here going, what's the worst that you have to do? Spot John Carlson, make sure someone's got TJ Oshie at the front of the net. Justin Schultz was out there on that power play.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Because they were missing so many other guys. Yep. But that being said, they found a way to win a game against a team that beat you 6-1 this week.
Yep.
And they're doing it without 3-4 guys that are really valuable. Like, I say 3 kind of not tongue in cheek, but like I say 3 because I go, take the goalie out of it even, because there's no guarantees that Samsonov would have started that game.
Yeah, sure.
Like, it could have been Vanacek that night no matter what. And you could have had Orlov and Ovechkin and Kuznetsov playing in that game, and it could have been a lot different,
I think the theme of today's show is that good teams find a way to win. And this week we didn't see that out of the Flyers. And if we expect the Flyers to be a good team, we need to start seeing that out of them. And we're going to get our first chance this week. We got 4 games, 2 against New Jersey, 2 against the Islanders. And the Flyers have a chance to start proving themselves to be a good team in the league. And we're kind of heading towards the wrap here. I'm excited to see what team comes out on Tuesday, because if they come out fired up, We got a different animal, right? They have an opportunity to play a 50-game season here, right? Just put these 6 aside and just play a 50-game season. And if you can win the games you need to win, you can get there.
That's the good news. That's why I said it's not 2-4 in 6. It's 3-2-1. You're 7 points in 6 games. No, at least you're at 7 points, and no other team seems to be running away with it, right? That's the other thing too. That's why when you said 3 points in the next 2, is that like reasonable? I don't know, because I need to see what other teams are doing. If other teams are starting to run away with it and putting it together, like the Rangers aren't winning games, the Sabres aren't exactly winning games. The Devils haven't played a lot of games for me to see. I think they play again today, and it's like their 4th or 5th also, so it's too early to tell. Washington plays today, but just what I'm trying to point out also is that look how quickly Boston jumped back into the race from being a team with 3 points in 3 games to 7 in 5.
All of a sudden, because right back in the thick of it.
Right back in the thick of it. They're tied. They're in 2nd.
Right, tied with the Flyers.
Exactly. Like that's how quickly it turns. So, am I gonna freak like that? That's the hard part. We can freak out all we want to about the performance
without panicking.
Well, because you don't need to panic in the first 2 weeks of the season per se, but at the same time, you can't look like that. You cannot come out and play like garbage.
Yeah, we don't need panic, but we do need urgency.
Right. That's what I think the problem is. It's you don't panic over these situations because every team in the league is going to have a game that's rough. Let's put it this way:
every team in the league is going to have a week where they have 2 rough games. Like that.
Yeah. And let's play this card for a minute, okay? If we've been saying the whole time for most of this leading up to the season, Boston and Philadelphia are going to be 2 of the teams that probably make the playoffs out of this division that are among 2 of the best, right?
Right.
If you pit 2 of the best teams against each other, sometimes it's not pretty. Are they panicking in St. Louis because Colorado won a game against them 8-0?
Probably not.
You know what I mean? Because it's one game. Yes, it's an ugly game. Yes, St. Louis didn't have it that night. Yes, it looks bad on the scoreboard, and it looks like there's no effort, and it looks like you got demolished, right? Understandable. But it's one game out of the 56, and it's how you respond to that and play throughout. So because, the Flyers can get beat up by Boston. The alarming thing was that it's the 2nd time in the week that it's happened.
Right.
That was the alarming thing. It's not, if you lose, that's why I even said, I didn't have a problem that the Flyers lost to Buffalo on Monday. If you lose that game 3-2, even if it's regulation, maybe the goalie stood on his head, had a good game, didn't get the break that you needed. It happens. You weren't going to win all of them. It's 3-2. It was competitive. You lost a game. And this game now becomes a thing where you go, well, that was embarrassing, but you played 3 other close games that made the point against Boston look better, even if you lost another game in regulation earlier in the week. It's the fact that the 2 regulation losses are by a 6-1 score where you were dominated, start to finish.
Poor effort.
Poor effort, not even showing up.
Yep.
And that's the bell you have to answer is you didn't show up for a game. And the response last time was a 3-0 win, even though it wasn't the most perfect game. This has to change right now. You've got to either come out and execute or be this team, and that's going to be your identity. And that's what this next week is all about. This is what these next 2 games against the Devils are about. It's what the 2 games against the Islanders are going to be about. Show you have some heart, show you have some will to play and work and do the job, and show you have the effort in you to be better than this. Because if you don't after these 2 games, you will have gone through the schedule and played Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Boston, New Jersey, and the Islanders. The only teams that are left that you have not played are Washington and the Rangers. Right. And I don't need to see you play the Washington or the Rangers to know what you look like against the rest of the division. It's either going to look really good, and you're going to bounce back and have 2, 3, 4 really solid games that show that you can put this together and be right in the middle of the race.
Yep.
Or, there's 3 options, or not 3 options, 3 possibilities. You're either going to look really good and bounce back and be the team people think you can be. You might play better and play like you did against Pittsburgh. It's not perfect. It's going to have moments where it's shaky, but you survive and you're doing what you have to early on. That's why I said we'll feel better if they win on Tuesday, even if it's not the prettiest game, because it's a win.
Right.
Or you're going to look like you did in Boston.
You're going to curl up and you're going to
right, and you're going to be falling behind.
After
the first month of the season.
And the Flyers have Sunday and Monday off. Looks like they're going to practice Monday. I certainly can't wait to see what team comes out Tuesday And Kevin will be here to talk about that on Tuesday with his pregame show, which you can find here on our YouTube channel at YWT Podcast. You can also find the show on Twitter at YWT Podcast. We're everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Podbean, iTunes, sportstalkphilly.com. Make sure to follow all the socials. You know them by now; they're linked everywhere. We'll see, and I'll be back Tuesday with the post game, and we'll talk about what team showed up. And they're right back to the grind.
That at least has been the one thing that's been kind of fun so far is the videos. We've been having some fun with that stuff. It's been pretty good. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know if you noticed this, Kyle, but during the week, the station started using the StreamYard stuff too, and it's been kind of fun doing it. I actually went on camera for that stuff too, so it's been kind of fun doing all that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I really do enjoy making them, and we'll continue making them as we go. Things we will also continue making is this show. We'll be back here next Sunday. We'll see what kind of Flyers team we're dealing with. Next Sunday, we will not be talking about the Islanders game because it will be happening when the show goes up. So
we'll talk about the first one.
Yeah, and I'll be around for the post game after. We'll have recap of that game. It just won't be on the actual podcast itself. So again, make sure to follow the YouTube channel. And until then, we'll see.